Welcome to the program. I'm Mark Imperial. This segment's being brought to you by booksgrowbusiness.com. It's the place where busy professionals and entrepreneurs publish to inform their consumers, to build their practices, and to leave a legacy. We're doing a series of spotlights with remarkable attorneys across the country that have a focus on estate planning and elder law. Joining me on this segment is Sabrina Kane. She's based out of Cape Cod, Massachusetts, and she focuses on elder law. Sabrina, welcome to the program.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Sabrina, I know elder care or elder law is a broad topic and it's been in the news quite a bit these
Mhm.
days.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about your focus, your areas of focus in that spectrum and the types of clients that you serve?
I I try to serve everybody. I'm not a practitioner who tries to focus on something like a high net worth clientele or likewise on people who I hate the term poverty law, but for some reason that's the thing that like sticks in my head right now, like public benefits law. That's what I do. But it's not exclusively what I do. When I talk about my practice, I usually tell people that I do estates and trusts law. I make your typical or I prepare your typical estate planning documents for people. But then I specifically, tell people that I'm an elder law attorney, which means in my case that I file for Mass Health benefits for folks. Mass Health is the Medicaid agency in Massachusetts. For those of your listeners who are unfamiliar, Medicaid is a program that has administered through federal state partnership. So that much of the money that comes through the Medicaid program is federal, but then it's administered by the states with federal rules and guidelines that say, what the states have to provide to in order to get the Medicaid money, the funding. And anyway, so I apply for long-term care benefits for people. That's nursing home benefits, oftentimes that's paid for with Medicaid. Sometimes also home and community-based services.
I know
Application
in
or what
I
I'm
know in
sorry.
this I know
Sorry,
in this
it's
pandemic
pretty dense.
this pandemic has really shined a light on the
Mhm.
need for more awareness on this topic. What are
Right.
the hot topics? Because it's been in the news a lot lately. What are the hot topics of today in
Well,
guardianship and things of that nature?
I think people are really focusing on home and community-based services and being able to get the ability to get Medicaid services at home. So that's something like a nursing home level of care, but at your house through, I guess, home health care providers. And those applications are pretty complicated, and it's an overwhelming topic for people. You hear a lot about estate recovery and the fact that there's a lien on an individual's assets after they die. There was a really interesting Atlantic article about estate recovery that came out within a year or so ago. There's that film what was it, A Care Lot, that is about abusive guardianship practices, and people are really concerned about incapacity and guardianship and whether they have the documents in place that can be used to avoid guardianship. That's your power of attorney, typically, or your healthcare power of attorney. We in Massachusetts, we call it the healthcare proxy. Um, yeah, people in general, I think, are really focused on avoiding guardianship, having the right incapacity planning documents in place, and also just navigating these public benefits that are administered through the Medicaid program
Speaking of that movie,
or
it
programs.
really was about court, and it seemed like the
Mhm.
court was assigning complete strangers to be guardians. How
Yeah.
can folks like really avoid that? And now that they see that that seems to be a danger of not having all your ducks in a row or having all these things in place, how what are the steps for people to make sure that doesn't happen to them?
Well, guardianship is not quite like that in Massachusetts. Um, it's always a contested proceeding, and the person who is going to be potentially under guardianship always has an attorney. So if they can't afford one, then there's a public defender assigned to them. So I just want to make sure that it's clear that guardianship is is different in Massachusetts, and there's still problems, and there are reforms that are still needed, but it's not as bad as the movie. But everybody needs a healthcare proxy, and everybody needs, which other states sometimes call a healthcare power of attorney. And what that document does is it appoints somebody that providers, usually doctors, but sometimes a psychiatrist or a nurse practitioner can go to. It appoints an agent for somebody. So when you have these documents, like if I'm making one, I would be called the principal. The person that I would be nominating would be the agent, and in the event of my incapacity, the agent would be making decisions for me as the principal. And the healthcare proxy, the healthcare power of attorney, is really what's used to avoid guardianship. But there's some overlap because a financial power of attorney is used for a principal to assign an agent to manage finances and other affairs. And when you're putting together a care plan, there's just significant overlap, because the healthcare power of attorney or the healthcare agent is the person who makes the medical decisions. But then when you're talking about putting together a care plan, maybe admitting somebody to a nursing home, the person who manages the finances is the one who will also be writing the checks. And so oftentimes, that comes into play too. But in either case, it's really important to, if you have the capacity to make the documents, I guess now, instead of, when you have a reduced, cognitive ability or something like that. It's a complicated topic, so I feel, and with a lot of details, and I'm not explaining this as well as I'd like to be, but that's the gist of it, is you want to have your incapacity planning documents in place.
Sabrina, what inspired you to focus on elder law in particular? How'd you get started?
It's what my mother does. And I, for a long time, thought that I wanted to do more, I don't know, like criminal law type stuff or family law type stuff. But then I realized that what I was really good at is this, that the apple didn't fall too far from the tree. So
makes a lot of sense. Sabrina, yeah. For our listeners out there that are in Cape Cod, Massachusetts, or areas that you serve, how can they connect with you and learn more?
They can always call me. My office number is 508-694-9201. That's my cell number. I am always happy to talk for a few minutes with somebody over the phone. I don't officially offer free consultations, but the reality is that when somebody's talking to me and I get going, oftentimes even before I'll make an appointment and we set up an engagement letter and establish an attorney-client relationship, I do chat about what I do, and I try to help people focus so that even if I'm not the right attorney for them, hopefully they come away with, from our conversation, being a little bit more informed. And it's always a little bit easier to talk about these things when you have concrete examples and you're interacting with people. It's much harder to talk about them in the abstract than it is when you're sitting down and they're saying, such and such is going on. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, this is how you handle it.
So it's very important to get with you with a one-on-one consultation so they can talk about their situation in detail with you.
Yeah. And it's very much an area of law that's all about the facts and circumstances and the particulars. So it's really just very hard to talk about it in the abstract. But there's always a story,
Well, Sabrina, I really appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule and sharing your insights with my audience today. And I wish you continued success for you and for all of your clients.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I do hope that, I wasn't overly detailed, but yes, thank you. I enjoy the area. I enjoy what I do.
Sabrina Kane, elder law attorney based in Cape Cod, Massachusetts. This segment's been brought to you by booksgrowbusiness.com. It's the place where busy entrepreneurs publish to grow their practices, inform their consumers, and to leave a legacy. That's all for now. I'm Mark Imperial, and thanks for tuning in.